Welcome to Badger Talks Quick Picks, which brings exciting happenings, resources, and talent from your UW flagship campus to the people of Wisconsin and beyond, demonstrating the power of the Wisconsin idea, one connection at a time.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kevin Masarik, and we're going to be talking today about water wellness and managing your private well water system. Why do we want to learn about well water? Well, most people that live out in rural areas have their own private well. And what they may not realize, or what you may not realize, is that your well water is actually just coming from groundwater. And groundwater is not an underground lake. It's not an underground river. It's just precipitation, rain or snow melt, some of which soaks into the ground, eventually reaching a point where all the empty space in between the soil particles or all the cracks in the rock are filled with water, and that's our groundwater. Wells are what we use to pull some of that water out of the ground into our homes. And as much as we all might want pure drinking water, we have to realize that all groundwater has different impurities that depend on the types of rocks, minerals that water moves through, the types of land use where that water infiltrates or soaks into the ground, even the types of plumbing or packaging that water is stored or transported in can impart different chemical constituents or characteristics to our water. And knowing that information can be really valuable for understanding our individual water quality. And those are some of the things I'd like to talk about today. Just know that when things are in our water that are unpleasant for aesthetic reasons or maybe unsafe, make the water unsafe to drink, a lot of times there's simple things that well owners can do to treat the water or change the plumbing system that might make that water more aesthetically pleasing or safer to drink. The other thing to keep in mind about groundwater is how important the geology actually is. So we give the term aquifer as the term we give to our groundwater storage units. The different types of materials that hold and store our water will determine things like basic water quality, how quickly that groundwater flows, how much water you might be able to actually pull out of the ground at any given time, or how easily groundwater becomes contaminated. And the layered cake geology that you see of Wisconsin is what essentially holds, these different layers are what hold our groundwater and our private well water. The other thing to keep in mind is that people that live in municipalities that rely on public water systems benefit the most from the rules and regulations concerning our drinking water. They have staff that are required to routinely test that water, and if it doesn't meet standards, those systems are required to treat it or make it safe to drink before it can be distributed to its customers. As opposed to private wells, which are a lot of people that live in rural areas of Wisconsin, it's about 1/3 of the state's population that rely on drinking water from one of 800,000, roughly speaking, private wells. Those wells are not required to be regularly tested. There's some minimum testing requirements when a well is drilled, or if you have well or pump work performed. But beyond those certain time periods, there's not a lot of testing that is actually taking place unless the well owner themselves is taking it upon themselves to do that. The other thing to keep in mind is that private wells are not required to take any sort of corrective action. So the information that we provide here, that I'm providing here, is with the intent of helping well owners not only understand what they should be testing for, but understand, what some of those next steps might be, what special precautions they might be able to take to ensure safe drinking water for themselves and their families. When we talk about different testing that can be performed, there's different categories. There's obviously a number of things that we could find in our water that can impact our health. We see those in the left column there. There's also things that may not be cause for concern for health reasons, but do impact things like the taste, the color, or the odor of the well water coming into our homes. And then there's other important tests that we can do to determine things like, how is our water going to interact with our plumbing system? Will it have a tendency to cause scale formation? or will maybe it have the tendency to corrode different metal components of our plumbing system? So just know that there's a significant number of different tests that homeowners can choose to perform, and those tests are oftentimes performed for various reasons. When it comes to what types of tests are recommended, the most important ones to consider are going to be bacteria, nitrate, arsenic, and lead. These are tests that, in the case of bacteria and nitrate, we'd recommend private wells be tested for annually. And then things like arsenic and lead are things that we'd encourage every well to test for at least once. And then there's additional testing that people might consider depending on, maybe where they live or the types of land use that they might have occurring, within a quarter or a half mile of the well, that are often the most influential for determining water quality with respect to local human activities. So there's a number of places to go for information that would help somebody determine what particular tests to consider. If you're concerned about what types of water quality or what information exists on well water quality across Wisconsin, where you might live, work, or recreate, there's an online tool called the Wisconsin Well Water Quality Viewer. It's an interactive mapping tool that provides access to 14 different water quality parameters. Some of the more common water quality complaints or concerns that people in Wisconsin might experience. That data is accessible and visible in different scales. So it will aggregate the information, let's say at a county, at a town range, or even at a section level. It doesn't necessarily give away or describe information for individual or site-specific wells, but generally speaking, does a pretty good job of helping people understand what water quality issues or concerns might be in their local region. If you're looking to use that resource, just search online for Wisconsin Well Water Viewer and it should pop up. If you do or are interested in getting your private well tested, the first step would be to locate a certified laboratory that performs the particular test that you're interested in. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources maintains a list of labs that test private wells on their website. There's also the Water and Environmental Analysis Lab at UW-Stevens Point, or the Wisconsin State Laboratory of Hygiene at or in Madison area. If you're going to test, it is not okay to just fill up any bottle that you might have in your home. It is absolutely essential that you contact the laboratory first to obtain those sample bottles and instructions for the particular test that you're interested in. A lot of times they may actually mail you the sample kit and instructions with how to mail it back to them. Otherwise, if you're close by, you may be able to stop by in person and pick up a test kit directly from the lab that you're interested in working with. So in closing, I'd like to just kind of reiterate some of the things that we try to get across to private well owners in terms of operating your private well water system, which are periodically inspecting and maintaining the area around your well. Test your water regularly to evaluate common water quality concerns. And if those inspections or if those test results indicate potential issues or problems, then it might be necessary to take some sort of corrective action. And that's a big part of what our extension programming does, is work with private well owners to determine what those next steps might be and to help educate them on the proper decision-making tools available to make them more confident in utilizing and managing their well water system. So with that, I'd just like to thank you for joining. That concludes this Badger Talk.